Welcome, everyone. Got to put the meeting and call the meeting to order here. With that being said, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the April meeting? Yeah. I would accept the motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. The financial reports?
Fund balance before these claims were paid was $916,290.29. And you can see most of the claims are with.
Everything was for the Market Street Plaza. We still have some more outstanding. It's gonna come in, but we're sticking right on track where we need to be.
Is there anything else for us, Rosemary?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, if there's no questions or concerns, I would accept a motion to approve the financial report.
I'll make a motion.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Stone Municipal, that's all taken care of, I guess.
That was in the claim, so,
In the claims.
Adam, I'll let you go ahead and start, that way if you need to jump off, you can.
Sounds good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So I have two items for you. One, we'll start with the most pressing, which is the annual letter to the units. I will share my screen and walk through that. So this is one of the annual requirements of all Indiana redevelopment commissions. This is a form letter that goes out each year to the various different taxing units that share boundaries with the Connersville Redevelopment Commission. Historically, this has been the one area, which is the Wayzata Economic Development Area. But with the newest expansion area, we now have two districts that we need to communicate with. So in this case, the county auditor, the city Connersville Council, the school corporation, township, and the county will receive this letter, and it is due to be received to them no later than June 15th. And essentially,
Adam?
Yes.
Real quick, are you gonna add the city, the Connersville Township?
That's correct. Yep. We'll add that. Good catch there, Rosemary. This will go out to the township as well. We'll need to add them in. The idea here is pretty straightforward. The redevelopment commissions capture assessed value that would otherwise go to the normal base of these units. So in preparation of their budget cycle, state law requires that redevelopment commissions make a determination in advance of the next tax year, in this case 2026, whether there's an intention to pass through any of the previously captured assessed value for these units planning purposes. Historically, the City of Connersville Redevelopment Commission has decided not to pass through any amounts. A couple years ago, there was a new state law change that added a sort of a mathematical threshold to that as well. We have independently calculated that. Both areas are below the 200% threshold, which essentially just means that this is a decision of this body only and does not need to go to the Common Council. So the letter has been prepared, assuming that the motion is made to determine that there is no excess captured assessed value to pass through. And as your financial advisor, I would suggest that is very reasonable for two reasons. One, the Wayzata TIF, 100% of those incremental revenues are pledged to the bonds. So those bonds are still outstanding, and therefore 100% of those revenues are really required to service the debt, principal, and interest payments on those bonds. And then with the newest TIF area, it's in its infancy, it's just getting started. It actually has no incremental revenues at this point in time. So you need all of those in the future to address the economic development plan. So if for today, we just need a motion either determining that there is no excess assessed valuation for pay 2026, or if the commission decides they want to proceed, we would just need a specific dollar amount so that we can let them know. But from my side, we would encourage you to proceed with the determination that there is no excess assessed value, so that we can finalize this letter and get it in the mail so that we can meet the June 15th filing deadline.
Thoughts, team?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Sounds good to you. I would accept a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we
I'll
have a
second it.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Adam.
My pleasure, and I appreciate that. So the final version of this will go out in the mail here, and just wanted to give you that courtesy heads up. Those will likely start hitting desk, late this month, early June. The next compliance requirement we'll be working towards is the annual presentation to units. We'll likely do that in one of the summer meetings, maybe a July or August meeting, as well as in that time we'll be getting the neutralization process completed for the commission. That has changed. One of the laws you'll see here in a moment when we go through the advisory report. The neutralization process was amended with the new property tax reform, and we'll be working through to make sure those new adjustments are factored correctly in preparation of the 2026 assessed values for the city and the Redevelopment Commission. So with that, would it be okay if I transition to my last item, which is a walkthrough of our advisory report?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so everyone at this point is well familiar with the Senate Enrolled Act 1, or used to be a couple of weeks ago was referred to as SB 1 or Senate Bill 1. It is a massive change in the property tax structure, and I would start with maybe taking a step back and just reiterating kind of some context here. So, before 2000, I think it was 2002 or 2003, there was really no caps or limits on property tax growth. So each unit, library, city, county would adopt a budget. They would stack those budgets on top of each other, divide it by the assessed values in those areas, and that would become the sort of effective tax rate that needed to be levied on properties. Well, in the early 2000s, this concept of a maximum levy growth quotient was, studied and ultimately enacted. And that created this sort of levy construct, this term we talk about during the budget. And it kind of tagged that to a sort of inflationary measure and limited the amount of the total sort of levy or property tax that could grow in a given year. Fast forward a few years, 2007, 2008, there was legislation that enacted property tax caps based on the gross assessed value of certain properties, homestead, non-homestead, and commercial. And that led to circuit breakers and other sort of controls and constraints on how much property tax control. And now we enter 2025 and we have a third and new constraint here. We have Senate Bill 1, which is a new constraint on property tax that really is actually addressing it from it introduces new credits on the tax bill, and it also introduces new deductions on the residential side in a pretty significant scale, both of which are going to have an impact on Redevelopment Commission, both from a financial perspective and then also from a strategic perspective. So this is a high level overview. Happy to do a more in-depth as we learn and go through this. But anyway, let's get started. So what I would say here in how I am personally interpreting the changes, if we go back and look at that historical context of what happened in the early 2000s, around the 2007, 2008, and then now, the last 25 years, the state legislator has made it pretty consistently clear that property tax revenue is not going to be a fast growing revenue source for communities and municipalities in this case. So then what is, right? How are we going to be able to provide services? Well, in most communities, Connersville is similar, either the number one or number two revenue source is actually local income tax, or LIT. And one of the main interpretations of this property tax reform is it's really a rotation. It's a shift from, collecting taxes on the property and move more on the property owner, right? So if you're a fixed income retired individual, you're not bearing a lot of the cost to provide services. You're limited based on, you're provided more credits and deductions in that case. So in a real sense, if you start thinking about a situation where an individual's household income is greater than their assessed value of their property, by 2028, if not sooner, communities will be generating more revenue off of that individual's income than their actual property. Okay. So that is one of the sort of strategic takeaways here. So as we work towards 2028, you will hear us continue to be talking about local income tax, while redevelopment commissions are actually a function of the property tax revenues. You play a massive role in generation of new jobs, generation of new population density, et cetera, all of which obviously stimulate and grow the local income tax base. And in a post 2028 world, this is going to become a significantly important revenue source. The state law actually does away with the existing local income tax structure as it is today, and is going to require all counties and all units of government to sort of reassess and reenact a local income tax measure in 2028 to replace what they have today. We won't get into that today, but that is certainly at the council level this budget season, something we're certainly going to be thinking about, and making sure that the city has a good fiscal plan for 2026, 27, and 28 in light of these fairly monumental changes in both the tax scheme and the strategy. So getting into the specifics, so residential assessed valuation, we anticipate there's new deductions that are going to take shape. And while these are deductions of the gross assessed value, so on residential, gross assessed value is typically trails sales. So they're intended to be based on comparable sales of properties. There's a thing called a sales disclosure that's filed when properties are changed hands. And there's what's called a sales ratio analysis completed at the assessor level to try to extrapolate comparable recent sales into what your house is worth. So like, for example, if your neighbor sells their house for a significant amount above what they bought it for, that sale gets sort of thrown into a database, and that gets averaged with other sales, and then essentially gets ratioed out on a per bedroom and per square foot on a basis. And that's what drives assessments up or down. That's on the gross assessment. Right now, if you're a property owner in Connersville, you're probably familiar with the homestead tax deduction and the supplemental deduction. A couple years ago, there was a mortgage deduction. That a few cycles ago, the mortgage deduction got lumped in with the homestead, which brought it up to $48,000. And then there was an additional supplemental for about 30% or so of the remaining value. Those two have completely changed. So on homestead properties, the actual homestead as we know it's going away. It's getting replaced with an expanded supplemental. So by 2031, 67% or 2/3 of the gross assessed value is going to be deducted on homestead properties. So if you have a $300,000 house now, $100,000 of that house will be taxable by 2031, and it'll be being phased in over that period of time. This is a significant change in current policy and will have a large contraction effect on the residential valuations that folks pay taxes on. What is new is a non-homestead property. For all 2% properties or otherwise rental real estate, whether that's single-family rental or multifamily rental, they have an entirely new deduction class starting in 2026 and ramping up. So if you're an owner by 2031, you get 2/3 off. If you own a rental property, 1/3 of the property goes down. So from a property taxpayer perspective, these are excellent, right? You're going to, in a real sense, have lower taxable value that you're paying. This is going to create a lot of downward pressure on the assessments, which have certainly risen across the state over the last few years. Obviously, on the municipality side, this is how we make money, and any sort of contraction here doesn't necessarily lead to an immediate reduction in revenue because of the way the levies are computed. But in the case of Connorsville, this will have a counteracting effect on tax rates. So we would expect the actual tax rates to go up. And in a lot of these cases, these properties are already at the circuit breaker or near the circuit breaker. So what we're really looking at is an increase in circuit breaker losses above the current. So that is something that we're going to absolutely have to navigate each of the budget years, really all the way out to 2031, to ensure this gets handled correctly. So that's one massive change. The next massive change that would impact redevelopment commissions would be business personal property tax adjustments. Currently, the de minimis floor is going from about $80 or $85,000 this year to $2 million next year. So what that effectively means is that if you're a business and you're investing $1.5 million of equipment, and property in your building, today you would be paying taxes, and those would be incremental revenues to the city. Well, going forward, the floor, the minimum investment has been raised to over $2 million. So that would essentially be 100% tax abatement on that investment. The state is trying to encourage that amount of investment, which is good. But again, it just creates a situation where we have less and less taxable base to adjust. There's a few other things here, specifically as it relates to the depreciation floor. This is something we're going to have to pay attention to with WASADA as well, and we'll be monitoring that closely. A couple safeguards that came out is the TIF neutralization process. So the final bill was 345 pages long. It was passed in one session and never made it through a study committee. One of the amendments that I'm grateful for that came in at the last minute was the TIF neutralization process. As we mentioned, the assessed value contraction typically is offset by an increase in tax rates. Well, traditionally, an increase in tax rates is actually good for redevelopment commissions. So there were some discussions on if this was actually going to create a windfall opportunity for redevelopment commissions. Well, that has largely been circumvented, but there was also replaced with a new safeguard. So the neutralization process for the first time ever will have a new protocol where we have to sort of stabilize and assess the impacts of this bill on specific economic development projects in the commission to sort of circumvent the normal assessment process to neutralize that. So practical example of that is if one of these bills has a negative impact on WASADA, we now have at least a new safeguard to try to neutralize that negative impact and protect that debt service. So that is one of the new aspects. So how does this state law, while it's good from a property owner perspective, how does it impact redevelopment commissions? Well, basically in twofold. One is redevelopment commissions can create TIF districts on residential properties and commonly do, as well as industrial. Even in the case of Connorsville, while you don't currently have a residential TIF, you certainly could in the future. And if the tax rates change materially, then that would impact your commercial areas as well. Okay. So a couple advanced concepts, and then I'll open it up because I know this is a lot to take in. I just want to make sure we are paying very much close attention to this. We talked about the TIF neutralization, debt adjustments. We will be monitoring that very carefully this summer with respect to Wayzata. It is a brand new process, as no one in the state has done this yet. So there's certainly a lot to be learned there, but we will handle that with care. Moving more towards the strategic, assuming there's a lot to assume here, but assuming there is a adjustment and the county and the community looks at how they want to handle local income tax in the future, at a minimum, we would say going forward, new projects, you should certainly start thinking about the impacts towards local income tax, at least as much, if not more, than you've ever done so in the past. Because basically the property tax reform just continues that trend of saying, hey, if you want to have a growing tax revenue base, it's not really going to come from property tax, or that's at least not going to be a high growth revenue opportunity to cover your cost of service. So then you have to find another one. And the next largest is local income tax. So what we've been advising all the commissions that we serve is all of a sudden on our project scoring rubrics, as we're thinking about new projects or as projects come and seek redevelopment commission support, really heightening that emphasis on job creation, job quality, the incomes of the new jobs, how those compare to current, and really making sure we incorporate that into the mix. Especially in a world where after January 1st, 2028, there is a new local income tax, either at the county level or city level. The last thing we talked about would be, pilot and local tax reform. I'll save this for today. This is, we can see some situations where direct negotiated project agreements utilize what's called a pilot mechanism as opposed to the sort of natural process. That's a way to circumvent the assessment process altogether. And if we get into a specific economic development project agreement, that may be a concept you see us suggesting to try to help stabilize and make sure that there's enforcement mechanisms beyond the normal course of assessment to stabilize. So in a nutshell, what that would look like is, we agree to a minimum assessed value or minimum tax amount on a project. We record that on the property, and that is the minimum amount of cash flows that they can pay regardless of what the assessment is. And that just creates an opportunity to guarantee the sort of return on investment for the Redevelopment Commission and the community. And then lastly, I do strongly feel this also makes an important shift towards mixed use development. So essentially residential development is, I'm not going to say a loss leader, but it certainly from a property tax perspective is being diminished on how much it's going to be able to produce in tax revenue. So then you start looking at, okay, yes, we're going to have the new population or we're going to have new density. That's going to help from a local income tax per acre contribution. That's good. But what else, right? How can we kind of get back some of that tax revenue that we have lost on the residential side? And that comes on the commercial. So this concept of mixed use, meaning we have an industrial with office, we have office and retail, we have residential and retail, right? Some sort of multi-use component, getting in any amount of square footage of that commercial space, to the extent that we can build it and lease it up, that's going to create an opportunity where on a per acre basis, you're generating more taxes per acre than you would if it was a single use, specifically a single residential use development. So anyway, I believe the mayor has shared this with you. There's a lot stacked in 4 pages here, but this was our, sort of advisory interpretation specifically for the redevelopment commissions we serve. And it's, we're trying to summarize almost 350 pages down into 4. I'm happy to take any questions that you do have. I'd also tell you we are, working through these on a practical project by project basis as well. And we'll continue to have, a lot of best practices for you as we keep working through and understanding all the kind of implications of the bill.
I know that was a lot to digest. You got any questions? I mean, it's going to take a long time to digest all this. including our city budget side. So there's just, I wanted Adam to just kind of give us his interpretation of what he's reading and some tools that we have going forward. Because we know we're going to have significant changes on property tax, and we know we have to redo all of our lit taxes. So that's going to be a lot of work, a lot of math, and a lot of calculations, and some of the stuff I don't even know where to begin how to calculate. It's very, very confusing. So we just want to start educating what I do.
That's why you hire people, right?
It is, but now we also have to be looking at, I know we just went through the neutralization process to capture everything, but we've got to find a way to capture income for RDC. If not, we got to continue paying them somehow.
Yeah.
And without them, we've
Right.
got to find a way to start generating some revenue.
Yep.
I'm not asking for big revenue, but I'm asking at least we can pay our consultants so we can stay on top of all the legal stuff we got to do, and then helping us go forward. So.
Right.
I guess that's a sidebar conversation you can start thinking about, Adam.
I'm on it, and like I tell you, this is important stuff. We want to make sure we get it right. One of the takeaways I would also just say is the bill, I think, unfortunately creates winners and losers. I just do, and I've been saying that publicly, and will continue to say that publicly. I think it was. And what I mean by that is there are communities that are not going to have the resources to be able to study this implication and kind of navigate through it strategically. And they just sort of stop, right? And unfortunately I think the majority, there's going to be a group of communities that navigate this and figure it out, right? And I just think we want to make sure that we give you all every tool and opportunity possible to be on that sort of winner, kind of that group that sort of can navigate this thing. And there's a lot of talk about the bill changing and stuff like that. That's all speculation. Right now, the current law goes into effect July 1st, 2025. And so we have to start, reacting to it and, immediately.
Right. I appreciate your work on that, Adam. So
Thank you, Adam.
My pleasure. Certainly as we get into this summer and we start actually, dealing with real budget implications of this and real, neutralization impacts of this, we'll have more and more updates as we go. This will be something, we reference back, for the foreseeable future. It is an entire, I can't say it another way. It's the largest change in municipal finance in Indiana since property tax caps were implemented in 2006, 2007. So, we will be doing our absolute best to make sure you all come out as close to ahead of this as we possibly can. At least we'll make sure we're sharing you the latest and greatest we're seeing, not only from our interpretation, but then also what we're seeing in other communities as well.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I hope you all have a really great long holiday weekend, and go Pacers.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, sure was. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we have,
Yep, I'll just give you an update on Market Street. I'll go over the cost first. You can see the cost we had here. That was all part of the original scoped up pricing. We're still coming in right where we were hoping. We're still a little less, but I got some more costs coming in. There was one piece of puzzle I said that we did not have priced yet, and that is the light bar and the winches and everything. I went ahead and got the light bar fabricated because we were running out of time. We were struggling on getting information on prices. John's on here. He can confirm we've been pushing these guys for over a year to get prices, and they wanted to wait till the last minute. I don't know if they waited the last minute. It was hard to get pricing with tariffs and everything going on. No one could give you a firm quote.
right.
So I went ahead and asked Chase to build it because I was literally running out of time because with the concrete being delayed with the weather, I told Chase, I know you had 2 more weeks, but I got to get this up because once that concrete gets laid, I can't access it. I cannot get a heavy lift on fresh green concrete. So he did a fantastic. Chase jumped on it, came in over the weekend and made it. I still don't have a price on that yet, what that's going to take. I can't see it being a substantial amount, but the most expensive part is going to be the winches. We're trying to figure out a different solution on that. That's still, I think just a control box and the winches is gonna be around $14,000. Um, but we're still working on that piece yet.
Right.
The reason we want the winches is those lights are designed to be outside, but in the wintertime, we want to be able to lower that down, take them off and store them away, or find a way to cover them with something. We prefer to take them off. And then we can put them back up in the spring. And if we ever need to access it for changes, I don't have to rent a main lift. We can
Right.
just lower it to the ground, do what we need to do. There is a couple of things I'm working on, some ideas. I met with John this morning and I am looking to put like some sort of John, you can correct me, it's a 70-volt system. I always get confused if it's 70 or 75-volt sound system up there. The only reason is, like when we're not having live bands playing, we can play music. So when the farmers market's there, they can play music. When we have the Winter Fest going on, we can just be playing Christmas music. Or it's just a PA system. When we want to talk to people, we can talk to people. That's pretty insignificant cost. That's only $1,200-$1,500. That's not gonna be a big cost, but I'm pushing that down the road. I want to get everything else done and then we can start every year, I would like to find ways to make that stage better. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but I want to add stuff every year to it. So we've always got new stuff. If you've noticed anything, and Brad's been around me the longest, is I don't like things to get stagnant. I'm always changing things up, and sometimes that drives some people crazy, but it drives me crazy when I don't mind things staying the same, but I always want to make it better somehow every year.
Yeah, that's good.
So we've got tech. I mean, the comments we heard from the guys, the bands, that last band, they play all over the place, all over the country. And their comment was, we have never seen an outdoor amphitheater like this one anywhere we played. And all their comments was geared towards exactly why we built it and where we put it there is you're going to start attracting some bigger artists here. And that was the whole point behind a lot of that. So once we get more better pricing on those control boxes, I'm not in a hurry right now because even if we put them up, I'm not going to lower it till after Winterfest.
Right.
Because we want to keep it up during Winterfest. So what I am doing in the meantime, John and I met this morning. We wanted to breathe a little bit because I'll tell you what, pushing that thing to the end it wore us out. We still got a few things to do, just like building shelves. I got to finish getting the restrooms open. I haven't got that done yet. But the majority of it is done. Praise the Lord. That was
Well,
a feat. I didn't think we were going to make it, but we got it done.
I want to thank you. You saved us a bunch of money with all the
Yeah.
electrical work you've done.
Well, electrical and everything, we saved about 400,000
Yeah.
by me doing all that. There was one piece of the puzzle we did not anticipate. We were going to use the street department to dig everything out and to bring Phil back in. But with everything going on, we got a time crunch. We're minimum staffed on the street department anyway.
Right.
So we did hire KW. They had some availability. I called several people that we can't even get there. KW could. We did have extra costs there, but I'm still coming in within budget. So we're fine on that. So I got all the extra costs. I'll bring it next meeting, all the extra costs that we had. But they're still coming in just fine where we need to be. And a lot of it's because we did a lot of work ourselves.
Right.
And the electrical work, yeah, we saved about $400,000 by me doing it on that. Not just me, the street department, and everybody. A lot of people helped out. So that's a big win for everybody. That just gives us more money to do more projects. Was my whole goal for that. But John and I did meet this morning. We did take some last December when we had to commit all of our art dollars. I don't remember. I have to check the amount. We took whatever uncommitted money. We put some of it in Market Street, just because I'm still working on a group to really structure and organize fundraising and scheduling events. And I want active participation in this group. And that takes some time. So right now the group is me and John. He and I is doing that because he has to be involved because of the tech and the sound for everything we do. We did come up with a plan to carry us through this rest of this year. My long-term goal is to have regularly weekly events out there. And call it kind of our summer series and fall series, but Celebration of the Village is going to be our big launch and just kick off. And then throughout the year, I want simple stuff. So the whole goal is to bring people to our downtown for our businesses. More businesses will come at that point. So if we have weekly or bi-weekly events where people can get off work, then grab a bite to eat, then go for a couple hours, simple concert, go home. That's kind of the idea. And then every once in a while, I'd like to space like different events out for like a longer weekend, but not necessarily a big event, but just something different that no one else has.
So if we have someone come here, are we gonna rent the space to them?
That's a point of we have, for right now. John and I's been talking about this. I don't have an answer. That's something we need to determine as a group. I'm not opposed to that, but I can tell you it's not going to be cheap.
Right,
Because they're going to have to pay for the sound, the tech, the guys running it, because it takes two people to run all
right.
this. You got set up, you got tear down. Well, they have to have their own insurance, but we will have to carry
Yeah.
a policy
Yeah,
for that.
right.
And then we gotta make sure it's clean when they're done. There's a lot that goes into that. It's not going to be cheap, but it's also an opportunity, as I was just sharing with Adam, we gotta find ways to make money.
Yeah.
That's also a way we can
Well,
fill our coffers up.
That's what I was thinking.
But if we're having weekly events, we also don't want to be competing with ourselves.
Right,
Again, the point is not necessarily to make money. The point is to develop our downtown, to revitalize our downtown.
right.
So we want to be careful with that. I'm not opposed to that, but I've got some pause with that. But
Well, I understand.
yeah, so again, it's not going to be a cheap thing. People don't realize the cost that it takes to bring a band in and then to put everything on. I mean, we're there. Fortunately, with the way we got it set up, we really designed it. Me and John sat down. I was like, we've got to make this simple and easy setup and tear down. I'll give you an illustration. When we rented the stage on the corner, I would get there between 5 and 6 a.m. with my trailer, pull everything out of the studio, down the elevator, fill my trailer up, bring it over. The stage would usually be set up the night before, so all we had to do was hook everything up, set the sound up. By noon, maybe 1 o'clock, we were pushing it to get it done. That's how long it takes. When the event was over, it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning before we got everything carried back upstairs and was done. That's a long day.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. With this new stage, I was there early because I'm an early riser and I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to get done. John, I think, got there around 10 and we were ready to go by 11 o'clock. Pretty easy. For our very first setup, trying to figure stuff out, that was pretty good. We did have some cabling we had to rework, but tear down, probably a half hour, 45 minutes. And with some of that, we were waiting on the band to get off the stage, get out of our way. So everything goes up easy and down easy. Just we take it down, it wheels right inside. It made it so much better. So we got to build some shelves and stuff there that help as well. But that's the whole point, was to keep our setup and tear down within an hour of each time. So an hour before, an hour behind it, we can really get it done. So that's a huge blessing. That allows us to do more events.
Right.
Because it's exhausting. It really is.
Reduces your cost
It reduces our costs. So some of the events we got scheduled, I don't really need all that. We've also designed it so if I don't need the full PA or any PA, all I gotta do is take our light controller, which is in the back. I don't know if you saw, we had all that pre-wired.
Right.
Everything is buried. You can't see anything. We just plug in. The controller goes in the power room and I can run the lights. I can do full function, but you're not gonna see full function. So we can power the lights up and just walk away. Then we can have acoustic bands. It's also designed for sound for acoustic bands so that we don't have to power everything. We just try to think of every detail to make it simpler and easier because it's getting harder and harder to find volunteers that want to help. And in particular with sound and PA, you got to have volunteers who understand sound and PA systems and lighting systems. That's a very intricate lighting controller. I spent some time over the weekend just trying to learn a little bit. I could do a little bit with it now, but I've got a background in some of that stuff, so it's still that complicated. But even with that PA system, the sound, and Justin has one of the best ears for setting a soundboard I know around here. And we want to be able to have other people do that, but they have to have a background. And also, I don't want to learn. It's an expensive system.
Yeah,
I don't want
to mess it up.
Yeah.
Right.
So that the goal is to get more people involved, especially if we're doing more and more events.
Right.
But so it's going to take some time to build. And I'm saying that because we did stick some money back just because now that I'm an office of one, I can't be fundraising and doing all the things in the event. So we stuck the money back to kind of give some seed money so people can see what it looks like. And then the sponsorships will come in. We've been talking to a lot of groups that do the events and stuff like that, and that they fund it by two different ways: their alcohol sales and their sponsorships. And from every sponsor I talked to, they love the digital TVs. They thought that was the greatest thing around, was the digital TVs. And that is also designed to make it a little simpler and easier without printing banners. I do have a problem with one TV, and John and I are going to work on that today. We got all the TVs up. We went to turn them on, and one of them, it's cracked everywhere. We're like, what happened to this? We don't know what happened. We think it was cracked when we got it. We don't have any idea because we could not see it till you turned it on, and then we saw the cracks. So we moved one of the TVs from the outside, so both of them, and it was under the stage, protected. So I don't know what could have happened. So we moved one of the TVs over, and they just worked phenomenal. So we did run an extra Cat 6 back there. John and I was brainstorming, and so if we ever want to put a camera up, and so you got an artist performing, maybe have a larger band. We have a way he can bring his laptop through camera through an extra Cat 6, and we can broadcast what's being played on the TVs instead of just running the banners. So there's a lot going to do with that. And
That'd be fun.
the banners is going to run 24/7 year round. They're going to be advertising upcoming events, not just Market Street Plaza, what's going on in the community.
Good.
So it's going to be a great marketing tool for our community. Another piece of the puzzle we did, I've talked about this a little bit at EDG, is our weather bug cameras went down. They were failing, and they were on top of TV3. So we used some art money to get new cameras. We went ahead and upgraded to 4K, and Michael was showing me all the 4K cameras around Indiana, and we are the only one with 4K. No one else has a quality we got, and a lot of them are kind of looking at school parking lots. So I never even thought about this, but when we first hung our string lights, I was watching one of the news networks, and they showed Connorsville.
Yeah, WTHR does it.
Yeah, and I'll never forget to comment. It was like, way to go, Connorsville, and all these. I was like, that's free marketing right there.
Absolutely.
You got it.
So we stuck the new camera right here, and guess what it looks at? Market Street
light.
Plaza. Oh, Market Street
Yeah,
Plaza.
Yeah. That's
So when we're running events, if you see the videos of that night, that thing is lit up everywhere and going like crazy. And if you didn't get a chance, I'll look on the Connorsville Facebook page. We got a little video. I took my drone out there and shot some nice shots to see what it looked like.
turned out well.
But that's getting
camera on the courthouse.
It does, and that's getting shared everywhere. The promoter, I played drums with the band for 3 songs, and I thought he was just a promoter. He's a professional photographer as well, so he took some nice photography shots of me and everyone playing, and he put them out everywhere. So the word's getting out, and stuff like that is going to keep spreading on what we have,
Right.
and it's going to start attracting more people. We're already getting it. I'm already getting emails and phone calls from bands that are like, hey,
Oh, wow.
what's going to take to play there? So I think it's going to be an easy project of fun going forward, especially with all the events that we would like to plan. There's 2 things that go together: food and music. It's a win-win in my eyes. But we don't want to do something everyone else is doing. We want to do something unique and creative and really draw a better crowd here. So other than that, we should hopefully by next week have a better schedule of events through the year. It's going to be 1 a month. It's not going to be a lot.
Right.
That'll get started.
Gotta
Next
walk
year-
before you run.
That's right. Next year, we're going to do some more scheduling. I did have one band. We are putting together a July 4th event.
Good.
We were really kicking that around. Just so people understand, that's also more expense because that's also a holiday. Our employees are off. Now I'm bringing employees in to do some of the work. So it's a little more expense. But since we don't have fireworks, Temple still got theirs on the 3rd. Fireworks show is going to cost $50,000 for the city. And I just think that's a lot of money when we've already got a very good fireworks show at Temple.
Yeah.
We're looking at a couple bands to come in, and it's going to be more lighter, easy dancing music. The first one, everyone will be familiar with. The second one, I've got 2 choices I'm looking at. The first one's going to be more of a better country band, or I'm looking at a brass band to do a swing band. I don't know if I'll do it that night or another night, but I think swing dancing and brass bands would be fun out there under the lights. So we'll get all that scheduled. We'll market it. We'll put it out, and we're using the remaining art dollars that we committed to help get seed going. And then once that gets going, I really think the sponsors, people's going to be saying, what do I got to take to sponsor this? So they'll jump all over it.
They will.
I've talked to other communities and they said, yeah, that's exactly what happens. Some of them limit their spots because they've only got so many banners. I don't have to limit anything because ours is all digital, so. And it's easy to create.
Yeah, I'll jump on it.
So that is the long-term plan going forward. That I know some people question, you only build it for one performance a year? No,
No.
but we gotta build it. It's gonna take some time. Other than that, any questions on that? I mean,
I thought it was a hit.
it was a very big hit. The biggest crowd I've seen yet. I've got a panoramic video. I think John might have shared in the video. And there's a lot, all the booths were tore down. I didn't know it, but it was just full of people.
It's interesting. I bring up a YouTube video and people actually walk through, they'll step up on the stage and the kid,
Oh, yeah.
people are walking through and they're
Oh, yeah.
noticing all of that.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
It's bigger than it looks.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's a little deceiving when you're sitting
You
out
get
there.
people on it, it's bigger than it looks.
It is. When you go standing on it, it's like, oh, wow, this is really big. But standing out in the parking lot looking, it doesn't look that big.
You get people, you get perspective when you get people on the stage.
It is. And it is designed to handle a larger band. There's no question about that. We did that specifically. It's acoustically good for a small band,
Right,
but it can handle a larger band.
right.
And if you really, the lights and stuff, the tech is what we really focused on a lot, because that doesn't exist anywhere. And now we've got it all, so.
And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody didn't want to do one of those plays like they're doing.
They have, it's not really designed for, it's a
I know
little,
it's
it's a
not,
little
but-
difficult for
Right.
plays because it's outside and every single person would have to be mic'd.
Absolutely.
And we don't have that capability. We have our mics are designed for musicians.
Right,
Now acoustically, that you can still do it, but the high school came out and did a play there and they did fine. It was kind of hard to hear, but we also had a very windy day, which
Right.
made it even worse.
right.
But the way we had to position our mics, our vocal mics are not designed to pick up everything. They're designed to pick up what's in front of it. So you have to have a different miking
Outdoors,
system.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a different miking system. So, but no, it's,
The lady here that has the dance studio, she loved it when the kids are there.
oh, that was great.
Yeah, she thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, so Friday night we highlighted a lot of local groups.
Yeah.
And then the very first band was a local group. We did that intentionally because we know the band and we want to do our sound checks with those guys. That's the one problem with when you do multiple bands, you don't get opportunity for good sound checks. And in between bands, you gotta switch it out and start all over. And it can take some time. So, but we're also going to figure out a way to streamline that a little bit. With the tech we have, we can do a little bit better. So we just gotta figure it out.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Mr. Holder, you have some updates for us. Thank you, by the way, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you very much.
Director.
I don't have anything very smart to say today. I've been about 3 weeks getting started and I'm just building relationships and learning the office and getting used to the staff, and we're upgrading some of the equipment in there so that we can do good work. Yeah. So hopefully by next month I'll have something intelligent to say.
Oh, well, thank you for your report, sir.
And your honesty.
Yep. Okay, any new business to bring before the board today? No? Okay. With that being said, our next meeting is scheduled for June 27, same time. And if there's nothing else to bring before the board, I would recommend or request
I'll make a
a
motion.
motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.